Yes.
Hi everyone, this is Didi.
And I am Fred. And this is our 36-foot floating home sunshine.
Join us as we go sailing.
Hello everyone. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon local time on the 3rd of July 2023. It's Monday, and we're still just slogging along. Hi. Later yesterday afternoon and through the night had increased cloud cover. It was pretty cloudy all night last night, well into this morning. And I don't know, the clouds moved on, the sun started to come out more and more. We got more and more blue sky. So right now it's pretty much a beautiful day. The wind is got a little bit of warmth to it, not much. But it's also blowing like 30 knots southeast from the south. So, or maybe a little south of south. Whatever, I can't get anywhere near my course line, which keeps moving further to the south as we keep going too far west. See the sea state. Lots of 10-footers out here. 6 feet, 2 meters is nothing. I spent a couple hours putting my plan to be able to use the autopilot on the wheel into action. I sat there and thought about it quite a bit. When I first bought the boat, I had a rather rudimentary setup with the autopilot and the wheel. And I bought the boat, it was on the east coast of Florida. I had to take it down around the Keys and back up to Tampa Bay. So it wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to utilize any kind of an autopilot. And of course at that time I didn't have any wind vane of any sort. Because with the boats and going through narrow channels and intercoastal waterway and all that kind of stuff required a lot of hand steering, basically. It was okay. It was not a bad trip. It took me a week or so. Often anchored at night, especially in intercoastal waterway. It wasn't going to try and go through there at night. You know, can't go 24/7. I got to sleep sometime. And I was not particularly in a big rush. Just enjoying the new boat. New to me, that is, and doing a lot of rubbernecking along the way. Anyway, on the previous trip to Thailand, I had some problems with the auxiliary rudder again, with gudgeons and pintles on the rudder itself, really, not the bracket on the hull. So I had to haul the auxiliary rudder up out of the water and lash it down back aft. And then when we got to Thailand, I made repairs, made a whole new gudgeon setup for the auxiliary rudder, which proved to be very effective. And I replicated it on the upper as well. Anyway, during a period of time, trying to get up to Thailand from Singapore, with no auxiliary rudder, and still got just a tiller pilot. Trying to get that to steer the boat was a real challenge. for a variety of reasons, which I'm not going to bother to go into now. But anyway, part of my experiments, I came up with the idea of there's an old wheel on the steering wheel from a previous owner's autopilot. That the wheel was on the steering wheel of the boat, but the autopilot itself was long gone because the motor had burned up trying to steer the boat, because the cable set up on this boat was a little rough. I took it all apart, cleaned the cable, and re-lubricated it, which helped quite a bit, and rerouted the cable somewhat, which also helped. Anyway, I remembered that idea, and I still had a little eye strap screwed onto that black plastic wheel that I would engage the pin on the autopilot arm in that, and I had drilled a hole in the seat, coated it with epoxy to seal it off, and the pin that holds the autopilot in place fit down nicely in that hole. The problem was, under power, the boat needs a little bit of right helm, because the torque from the prop thing is going to steer left all the time. And I didn't really have a good way to make a fine adjustment like that with the autopilot. I actually had to set it kind of like with the helm built into it, which limited the motion in one direction. And if things were too lumpy or bumpy, made it almost impossible for the autopilot to steer the boat under power. Forget trying to get it to go under sail, especially since I was still figuring out how to sail the boat and get it to balance well. But I remembered that idea, and I thought, well, we've got to do something here, especially if we've got to power any great distance in calmer conditions, because nothing worse than sitting there behind the steering wheel on top of the roasting engine, hand steering for hours and hours. And if the conditions are calm enough, the autopilot will handle steering the boat for power. It'll handle a little bit of wind. In fact, that's probably better because it helps stabilize the boat on course. But it would be a real challenge to get it to do anything in these kind of seas. So this is what I came up with. To give me some intermediate adjustment, the black wheel is still there. I just happen to have a piece of plywood from earlier projects. So I attached that to the black wheel, and then I drilled a number of holes down here so I can move this pin. Each hole is 10 degrees further from the center pin. So that gives me some latitude where I can pre-crank in weather or lee helm as necessary, and still have the tiller arm centered in its travel. So I don't know how that works. Right now it's not on. It's just holding the wheel. So I don't have to use my lines to hold the wheel, which work great but are annoying. It's got to climb around and get back there behind the wheel all the time. Anyway, of course, now I got to climb over the autopilot. It's sitting there in its raincoat very nicely to get back behind the wheel. So, like I said, I'm not using it to steer the boat. I just got the brake set, and I'm just using it to hold the wheel centered and letting the sails, trimmed as they are, more or less balance out pretty well. Got the boat up about as close against the wind as I can get it to go and still maintain some kind of speed with the boat, because the sea state, you may or may not be able to tell looking out here, is rather feisty. And a strong wind, big seas, and unfortunately also getting a swell up from the southwest. I suspect there's probably a big low down there south of the Mozambique Channel. There was one on Windy that I saw before we left. It was way south of us, so not a problem directly, but those low pressures come around the southern end of Africa about every 3 days, and if you get a particularly strong one, it's going to generate some pretty big seas. And I would say that they're not frequent, but they come through at least 1.5 meters high from the southwest, which, given our course, is pretty much right on the nose. Now, the wind waves from the southeast trades are more or less on the port bow or the port beam. But those southwestern waves, when we run into those, it almost completely stops the boat. We're making 3 to 4 knots right now. Anyway, otherwise, a beautiful day. Nice sunshine. It's pretty warm. We're down below 6 degrees south. Got some blue sky out there. And lots and lots and lots of wind. So, needless to say, nobody was going anywhere near the mast with any ideas of trying to go up and untangle the halyard snafu. Not in these conditions. No way that's going to happen. Maybe sometime later. Another day or two. We'll see. I'm hoping maybe that this strong wind will slack off, or we'll get in the lee, perhaps, of Madagascar as we get further south, and be able to make better progress going south, and perhaps get in a calm enough sea state where one or the other of us can get up the mast and get a hold of that halyard again and start the untangling process. If not, we'll just have to wait till we get to Mayotte. No biggie there. So that's it for now, folks. A beautiful blue Monday. Bye for now.